Good morning or good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this webinar, the Next-Gen pH Monitoring Flexible Sensor for Harsh Conditions. My name is Alex Joseph. I work at Linxens. Just before we leave the stage to our two speakers of the day, as a reminder, you have the possibilities all along the webinar and at the end to write questions to our speakers, so who will answer us live. So you should have a Q&A button on the top of the window. You can open it and type in your questions. Just before we go to the presentation, just very few words about Linxens, which is organizing today's webinar. So Linxens is a global leader in printed electronics. The company is designing and manufacturing diverse products in diverse sectors for printed electronics. Headquarters is in France, but we have operations in Europe and Asia. And just to give you a sense, about 80% of people in the world are using Linxens products, which are manufactured through more than 9 production sites in the world. Through this diversification, Linxens Healthcare was born last year and is becoming a trusted leader in medical contract manufacturing for remote health and testing through 3 main branches. One is biosensors, stick-to-skin wearable, and the authentication and track and trace. As you can imagine, today we are talking more about the biosensors, thanks to our 2 speakers. So we will have first Boris Laka, who is Deputy Director at UTINAM Institute, and a lecturer, and he's a university professor at UTINAM Institute as well. And then we will have Kathleen Ramsamy. She's a healthcare sales manager EMEA at Linxens Healthcare, and she holds a PhD in chemistry and has been working in R&D for years at Linxens, developing those sensors. They jointly have co-written a paper, polyaniline-based flexible sensors for pH monitoring in oxidizing environment, which has been published in MDPI. And today's webinar is based on the data, the results they have gotten and published in this paper. Now I'll have the pleasure to leave the floor and the microphone to Boris.
Thank you, Alex. Hello, everybody. In this webinar, I'm going to tell you about our work on developing pH sensors based on electrodeposited polyaniline for pH monitoring. Over time, several types of pH sensors have been developed, including pH glass electrodes, optical sensors, and electrochemical sensors. All these sensors are efficient in simple aqueous solutions, but less efficient in complex solutions, especially in harsh or oxidizing solutions. There is also a strong demand for flexible sensors, especially for healthcare applications, as wearable sensors offer real advantages, such as the ability to continuously monitor patients. For this study, we used the flexible electrodes fabricated using a wheel-to-wheel process by Linxens. You can see the pictures of these electrodes on the slide. As you can see, these electrodes consist of a polyimide substrate coated with copper foil, then by an electrodeposited nickel layer, and finally by a gold layer on the top of the stack. We have decided to perform the electropolymerization of polyaniline on the Linxens electrodes. We have decided to use a polyaniline film as a sensitive material for pH sensing due to the presence of many amino groups that can be protonated or deprotonated. So here you can see the sequence of electropolymerization. After degreasing the electrodes, an anodic potential was applied to an electrolyte composed of aniline monomers dissolved in sulfuric acid. Electropolymerization resulted in the deposition of a green film that can be seen in the photos in this slide. You can see the green deposit on the sensors. We then characterized the electrodeposited polymer film using electron microscopy. On the left, you can see the cross-sectional image of the prepared sensor. This image shows the substrate below, the polyimide substrate, the Linxens electrode, the metal electrode, and then the electrodeposited polymer film. On the right, you can see the morphology of the deposited gold, which is very compact and granular. And you can also see the morphology of the polymer film, which is spongy. So you have a strong difference of morphology between the polymer and the initial electrode. The thickness of the film was then measured by profilometry. You can see some of the profilometric measurements on the slide on the right. Before electrode deposition, the thickness of the electrode was 20.5 micrometers. And after electrode deposition, the thickness was 21.1 micrometer. The thickness of the polymer film was therefore approximately 0.6 micrometer. I'm now going to talk about the potential measurements for pH calibration. These measurements were carried out using a PulpSense portable potentiostat. And the measurements were performed between Linxens polyaniline coated sensors and a reference electrode. For each pH value ranging from pH 3 to pH 8, the potential was recorded as a function of time for 1 minute. So you can see the description of the experimental setup on this slide. The response of 8 different sensors were measured simultaneously. On the left, you have the figure showing that the response of the sensor is reproducible and that the response time of the sensors is less than 1 minute for all the pH values tested between pH 3 and pH 8. On the right, the figure shows the evolution of the potential as a function of pH. The curves obtained were linear, and their slope can be assimilated to the sensitivity of the sensor. This figure clearly shows that the sensors have a high sensitivity, over 70 millivolts per decade, which is a high sensitivity. We then wanted to use the same sensors with the same polyaniline film to make similar measurements in a medium containing hypochlorite ions, but the results were disappointing as the variation in potential as a function of pH was no longer linear, as you can see in this figure. So we had to find another solution. So to briefly conclude with this part before the end of the study, it can be stated that the polyaniline-based Linxens sensors were effective in aqueous solution unless the medium was highly oxidizing. To improve the situation, we decided to change the electrolyte and added different surfactants in the electrolyte solution to obtain a more compact polymer film that could resist more to the attack of the film by hypochlorite ions. The best results were obtained using the Triton surfactant. So we have then made other images by electron microscopy. On the right, you can see the morphology of the new polymer film containing Triton, and you can see that it's very different from the one obtained previously. It's notably much more compact. Also, the film thickness is different because with this new electrolyte, we have obtained a thickness of 1.6 micrometer. so a thicker one. The response of these new sensors was also measured, but this time in the presence of hypochlorite ions. Once again, a response time of 1 minute seems enough to reach the equilibrium potential. Above all, you can see in the figure on the right of the slide that the curves giving the potential as the function of pH are now linear and present high sensitivity, more than 60 millivolts per decade, and also a good reproducibility. So there is an important progress compared to the sensors without Triton. To conclude, so in this study, we used the Linxens electrodes as sensors. These electrodes are very interesting because they are flexible and the wheel-to-wheel process is very useful. Then we have covered the sensors with the polyaniline by electrode deposition. First, we have obtained excellent responses to pH changes in aqueous solution, which is the first interesting point. And after that, we have modified the composition of the film, and we obtained very good results, even in the presence of hypochlorite ions, so in harsh conditions. If you have questions, you can ask. You can obtain more information if you read the paper recently published in Chemosensors, which is in open access, and whose references are indicated in at the bottom of the slide. So thank you for your attention. And I let Kathleen.
Thank you, Boris. Yes, thank you. So that was the first part of the webinar. We will now have the second part with Kathleen. Just a quick reminder, so you have the possibility to ask questions at any time. We will ask the questions live to Boris and to Kathleen. So you have a Q&A button on the top, and you can write down your questions. We will receive them and ask them to the speakers. So now we will move on with Kathleen.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Boris, for the presentation. So as you can see, the pH sensors developed with UTINAM University excel in oxidizing environments. So that means that this kind of pH sensors can unlock a wide range of applications. For example, of application, we can find a lot of examples of application can be found across different markets. So, for example, in healthcare, we know that pH sensors is a parameter very important to follow some enzymatic reaction or something around the health monitorings. We know that, for example, for food and agriculture, the monitoring of the pH is very essential. For example, for the freshness monitoring, for soils analysis, the pH property is a very good indication of the state of the systems. And for the life science system and markets, we know that, for example, for cell cultures or for water monitoring, the pH is one of the parameters very important to be tracked. So let's see some example. Let's look at some example on these different markets. We can start with the healthcare. So we can take one of a typical example and a trendy example that we can find on the media. We have the sweat sensors for indirect lactate measurements. So our pH sensors can analyze the sweat, and we can have by indirect mean the measurement of the lactate. So with Linxens, we are able to integrate this sensor on a patch, and we are also able to provide you additional service like an IoT systems, but also a mobile app for this kind of application. If we take another example, so in food monitorings, our pH sensor can be embedded into a smart label, and by this way, we are able to have a real-time tracking of the food freshness. And if we take a last examples for life science, for cell cultures, we are able to provide a pH sensors with all the system for its integration inside a cell culture systems. Sorry. So you may ask yourself, you might be asking yourself about why choose Linxens over other company. So I will try to give you some argument to convince you that Linxens can be your partner to develop your solution by integrating this pH sensor. My first argument will be our experience, because we have 40 years of expertise in printed electronic and flexible materials. So that means that if you have some challenge, if you have a new product in mind, we will have the good experience in the industrialization to provide scalable solution and cost-effective solutions. Another argument is on our global footprint, because we have different factory all over the world. We have a different R&D site all over the world. So that means that we will be close to you to provide you the service for the development of your solutions. I can add some additional and key advantage to work with Linxens on our wall-to-wall manufacturing process. So all our system is in wall-to-wall, and this induces a high reproducibility and also a fast production at scales. So it's very interesting for you if you want to have a solution from a prototype until mass productions. With wall-to-wall, you are able to have these solutions. So about the process in details, we work essentially with flexible substrate, and over this flexible substrate, you will have a foil of copper, and with different and with several steps, we agree to obtain a client custom design with, in general, gold finishings. So based on that, you can imagine to add some additional custom things. And with that, we have the possibility to customize further your product by additional operation like component assemblies. So for example, if you want to have an electrode and on your electrodes you want to put a passive component or a chip, we are able to do this operation in wall-to-walls. You can imagine we can also provide service on functionalizations, for example, with screen printing, inkjet dispensing. We have all this operation also in wall-to-wall. And if you want to have some microfluidic systems or some stiffening systems, we have also the installation for that. We have also some exotic systems like laser or RFID antennas that we can integrate into the systems. So this wide range of solution can be proposed with Linxens. So based on this process, you can imagine we are able to provide different constructions. So we can start with a simple construction like single side electrodes. So that means that you will have only one surface, one active surface. But we can go with more complex systems like diverside systems or like well systems. We can also have different shape. We are able to go down on the resolution until 50 microns of resolutions. And we have a catalog of materials for your product. So that means that we can use different substrate like polyimide, PET, epoxy glass. We can also provide some different metal finishings. Gold in general is our standard, but we are open for other kind of finishing like platinum, like palladium or silver. And we have also some solution in dielectric systems. So that means that if you want to test just converting system for dielectric system, we have. But if you are looking for some 3D solution, we have also some cutting edge solution on that. So I will wrap up my presentation and with this final examples, just to show you that our R&D team is very creative. We develop sensors platforms able to do the water monitorings. And on this platform, we combine different sensors. We combine resistive temperature sensors with a very small pitch. We combine chemi-resistive sensors for the measurement, for example, of arsenic, free chloride. And we can also have the deposition of the polyaniline for the pH measurements. So thanks to this platform, you are able to have a plug-and-play installations. You can use this kind of sensor for a long sensor life, a long-term usage. And this sensor can be used for a real-time monitoring for water monitoring. So I hope that this presentation gives you some inspiration for your new product. And I hope that all the arguments I provide you are enough to convince you that Linxens can be your partner for the development of your sensors.
Thank you, Kathleen. So now the presentation part of the webinar is over. So now you have the possibilities to ask questions directly to both speaker, whatever the question is. As a reminder, so you have the button Q&A on the top. Just need to type in your question and we receive it. We already have a question. I wonder if I could say some words on relation of pH with the lactate content with your technology. Anyone with experience of lactate content and the impact on the pH measurement?
Boris, you want to answer or I can answer? Is like you want. We don't hear you.
Yes.
So yes, we have some customers. They use the indirect measurement of pH to have information on the lactate concentration, because with the enzymatic reaction with lactate, you have some protons interact during the reactions. So based on this indirect measurement with the pH, you are able to have the measurement in sweat to the lactate concentration.
Just a quick reminder, ask your question in the Q&A, not in the chat, just easier for us to check on the single place because there's been a question asked in the chat. So could you deposit it on a ceramic or polyester?
I think you talk about the electrodeposition of polyaniline. So if it's if you talk about polyaniline, it's not possible because you need a conductive substrate. So it will be difficult on polyester. Okay, so you have first to deposit some electrodes, metal electrodes, for example, on the substrate, and then you can do the electrodeposition.
Yes, and to complete the answer of Boris, as it is electropolymerizations, we need to have conductive parts. So that means that whatever the substrate, it is very essential to have this conductive part to have the current and to create the electropolymerization reactions.
apologize.
There is a question.
So, yes, another question. What does long sensor life mean? What measurement period is possible?
Yes, so the stability in time is different depending on the electrolyte. If you are in a macro solution, you can hope to have a longer lifetime, but if you're working in a hypochlorite solution, it's more difficult. Okay.
Yes.
So yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And to complete also, we already test the polyaniline pH sensors in standard media, so without oxidizing a product, and we test the sensor until 1 month, and we agree to keep the stability of the sensors during this period. But of course, if you are working on oxidizing environments, you will be able to have some linear relationship during a number of times. But if it is on 1 month, we cannot guarantee that the pH sensor will resist with high oxidant.
In fact, the sensors are cheap thanks to the process used by Linxens. So maybe it's not a problem to have a sensor not having a very long lifetime because of the cost, because of the low cost of the sensor.
Okay. Another question, can the sensor be gamma and or X-ray irradiated for use in biopharma application?
Good questions. I think we can test these conditions and can give you a feedback. So please contact us and we will be able to discuss about the condition and do the test for you and give you the feedback. Hypothetically, I would say yes, but I prefer to test and have the exact conditions with you, with the people who ask the question, to be sure that it is not a wrong answer.
Sorry. So another question, how the pH sensor work in contact with blood or liquids with high protein content?
In this work, we didn't try to work with blood, but in other works we have already worked with, for example, serum, and it's possible to have a good measurement in serum. I don't know if Kathleen, you have a
So yes,
some test in blood.
Polyaniline is well known on the polyaniline molecules and pH sensors, and using of polyaniline on as a pH sensor is well known in the literature. We have a lot of examples of biological measurement with polyaniline. I would say yes, it is possible, but you have some alternatives. So that means that instead of use directly the polyaniline on blood, we can think about to add some membrane just to filter a little the protein and avoid to have what I would say the encrassage. Fouling, sorry. Yes, the fouling of the electrode due to this kind of protein interaction. But I would say yes, the polyaniline is fully compatible with this kind of measurements.
And that partly answers the next question, which was why choose polyaniline and can it analyze sodium ions? So for the second part, can it analyze sodium ions?
The choice of polyaniline comes from the presence of many amino groups. So these amino groups can be protonated or deprotonated by protons. With sodium, it can happen an interaction with sodium, but I think I didn't see some works on the detection of sodium ions with conductive polymers.
In our side, we already test the impact of sodiums. Yes, sodium chloride on the stability of the pH is more for sweat sensors. For some customer, we test this parameter, and there is no impact of salts on the performance of the pH sensors. The only thing is the fact that as it is a potentiometric sensors, so that means that if you increase considerably the conductivity of the solutions with the sodiums, we need to take care about this and take that into account during the measurement. But we test on the range of the sweat sensors, so the sweat concentration with sodium chloride. With this range of usage, we don't see any impact of the sodium concentration on the performance of the pH.
Yes, in fact, it can modify the ionic strength. Also, it can modify the potential, but it's not. I think it's not a big change.
Okay. Another question. Have you compared your product with optical sensors for pH measurements? And if yes, which one is better? That is the advantage of each.
Begin. I think the big difference is the price, because the optical sensors in general are expensive. And secondly, they can be impacted by the color of the solution. So there is some limitations. There is also other advantages, but I think there is some limitation.
And I will complete on the accuracy. So it depends on the accuracy of what you are looking for. And also, as Boris said, about the price. With polyaniline and with Linxens systems, you will have a cost-effective and a low-price product. So that means it can be disposable. But for example, for optical sensor, you need to have some component, you need to have some specific installation inside your device, and this can be expensive. So it depends of your target price, but yeah, it depends on the final applications.
Okay, a few more questions. Is it a calibration-free pH sensor?
Boris, you want to answer or me?
I think it's better to do a calibration before, to have the real slope of the evolution of the potential as a function of pH. From my point of view, but it can be a calibration with two solutions only. It's not necessary to do many solutions to have a very accurate calibration. You can do as you do when you have a pH meter. You can take 2 or 3 solutions and you can do the calibration.
Also, so we got twice the questions. Are there approaches to miniaturize the reference electrode?
I think you have already done this miniature electrode in Linxens company. I don't know, Kathleen, if you have shown some electrodes with a working electrode and a reference electrode with a silver chloride silver electrode.
Yeah, so yes.
Slides.
At Linxens, we have solution for miniaturizations. I think that all scientific know the challenge that we have for the reference electrodes. It is a big challenge today. So we know that there is some pseudo-reference electrodes that we can have by using some ink or by doing the electro deposition of silver, and after that some operation for chlorinizations. So yes, we have possibility to miniaturize the electrode. This is something that we manage very well at Linxens. But after that, the requirement on the reference electrode property will depend to your specification, because we know that for the moment on the market, you will have pseudo-reference electrodes, but you will not have a very stable reference electrodes that we can find on the lab with the real probe that you have in the lab.
Okay, another question. Does the sensor response depend on the morphology of the films?
Boris,
Yes, 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 I can respond. I think the response is highly dependent on the morphology of the films. When we have performed the experiments in hypochlorite solution, we had a very compact and homogeneous film. And when you have such film, you have a quick response and you have a reversible response. On the contrary, when you have something which is very porous, you can trap the species and the reversibility is more difficult to obtain. So yes, the morphology has a big importance.
And is the sensor response reversible?
Yes, so yes, we have observed that the reversibility was very good in aqueous solutions. We have no problem. We have no drift. And in hypochlorite solution, it's a little bit more complicated, but we have a correct reversibility, but maybe it's not as perfect as for the aqueous solution. Okay, it's a little bit more complicated in a hypochlorite solution, but you have a good reversibility too.
Thank you. One last question. Could well-type design apply in biosensor?
A lot of designs that can be used. In this study, we have used spherical electrodes, but Linxens also fabricated interdigitated electrodes, which are very interesting for detection, including
yes, and I would say well structure is, in my point of view, is a very good constructions for biosensor, because for well systems you have a hole. So that means that if you want to functionalize, so put some enzyme or something like this with small volumes, and to be sure that you will not lost some chemicals on flat surface, with well system and well construction, you are able to focus the area of your functionalization. So I would say well system is better than standard electrodes.
I think we are done with the questions from the audience. As a reminder, you still have the possibility to write to us or to write directly to the speakers. You have their email address here on the screen. Thank you again for joining the webinar. Thank you for all the questions. I hope you find this tool interesting and giving ideas for future developments. We wish you a pleasant day. Thank you again to Boris and to Kathleen for their very nice presentation. And we wish to see you all in a future webinar. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.